my beautiful friends. Now today's video I'm sharing with you some of my fall recipes. Those recipes that aren't quite as heavy as winter meals, but the perfect transition into fall meals. In the winter I like to cook a lot of heavy, like stick to your bone, fill up your tummy kind of meals, especially with my husband working outdoors and it being so cold. I usually reserve my more heavier meals for the winter time or late fall, but I feel like these are the perfect meals to transition into September and October. And a lot of them are easy, super easy, semi-homemade, but still so delicious. I love to take ingredients like stuff from the store, such as like canned cream of chicken and maybe like a packet of gravy, and kind of just jazz it up so that it's a mix of some of my homemade stuff mixed with some store-bought stuff that makes my life a little simpler, but it all is really delicious and tastes homemade in the end. I think meals that are simple but good are my favorite kind. That's why the crock pots are one of my favorite meals to make. I can put everything in there and not worry about it all day, and at the end of the day I have a beautiful, delicious hot meal. And I feel like they are the easiest meals to deal with, and I thought I would share some of them with you. So if you're interested in seeing, definitely keep watching. Now I did a lot of these on my channel before, and I kind of stopped because they were just like, I felt like they were the same meals all the time. So I figured I would give it a little break, and if I came up with some meal ideas, I would share them, or I would share them periodically here and there just to give you guys some ideas. Because I know you can get stuck in a rut with eating. My family did for a while, and then we were eating out way too much. So we took about a month-long break from eating out, and I started to recook some of the meals that we have loved and started to try new things. So if you're interested in seeing some of the meals that I've come up with, definitely keep watching. These are great for stay-at-home moms, moms at work, or dads and moms, or grandparents, whoever, people that are busy, people that just want an easy, quick meal, people on a budget, anything you can think of. These are great meal ideas, and I really hope you enjoy them. I definitely hope you subscribe, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys. Okay, you guys, so I thought I would film a little week of meals. I don't like to film this too much because I feel like it can get very repetitive. So whenever I have some new ideas, I thought I would just share, or recipes that I feel like I haven't shared on my channel. And today I'm making pork and sauerkraut in the crock pot. It is mid-September, so we can start kind of pulling out the more heartier meals, and this is one of my favorite. My family is Hungarian, and I don't think this is necessarily, I feel like this is more like a Polish meal, but I feel like Polish and Hungarian foods are very similar. Just in my experience, I could be totally wrong with that, but I had this beautiful, it's still frozen, but it's gonna cook, it's 10 a.m. and it's gonna cook till almost 5 p.m. tonight. I got this whole beautiful piece for only $6.27, and I freeze it right away. That way it stays good for quite a while, but it was quite a bit of pork loin, and you could do anything with this. I've barbecued this, I've done all kinds of stuff, and it's really delicious. And then I just have 2 cans of sauerkraut. I don't put my potatoes in right away because I feel like they will disintegrate. So the last 2-3 hours I will add some russet potatoes, and I'll show you that. But this is what I'm going to put together, and obviously I'll season the pork, but I forgot to pull it out, but I don't think it's going to, I just won't add any extra liquid. I don't think it's going to pose a problem. But I wanted to ask anybody this. So I grew up not poor by any means, but I definitely, my family definitely, my mother was a single mother for 3 girls, and we didn't have the luxuries of some stuff. So when I was able to afford something like this, even though this was on sale, I just feel like little things like that, maybe I'm childish, but kind of make me just feel like accomplished. I don't know. How silly is that? Something as ridiculous as a big box of goldfish. I don't know. I just can buy that for my child, and it makes me feel good. I know that's so juvenile, but if you ever kind of lived paycheck to paycheck growing up, you'll know what I mean. So anyway, back to the food situation. So I'm going to put this in the crock pot. I'm going to add my sauerkraut. I love the smell of sauerkraut. It brings back my childhood. It's like childhood memories. My Hungarian great-grandmother, her home always smelled like cabbage and sauerkrauts and food like that. So it's just like wonderful memories. So I'm going to stick this all in the crock pot, and I will show you, and then I will bring you back when I add the potatoes, and then I will show you the end of the meal. So I will be back very shortly. Okay, I didn't want to offend anybody, but this is more German than Polish. I wanted to just come back and tell you guys that. That way nobody got upset. This is more of a German dish, but I do feel like Polish and German, very European meals like that, Hungarian, are similar, but with a twist. Don't kill me if I'm wrong. But yeah, so I will be back when I show you. Okay, so here it is. I had to defrost it just a little bit so I could break it up to fit it, because I didn't realize how much pork. I probably would have separated this if I realized how much pork it really was and made that into 2 separate meals, but we'll eat this for a couple of days. I'm just gonna cook it on low. I did salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic, and then I will obviously season it when it's cooking a little bit more, but that sauerkraut gives it a lot of extra flavor. So I'm going to show you really quick what I have in my cabinet that I actually bought from Aldi's. Excuse the mess. That I thought was really interesting, and I think it will go really well with this. It is fried apples with cinnamon. Pork and apples go well, pork and pineapple, but I think this will be really good. So I think I'm going to serve that as a side instead of doing applesauce.
Geography is, what is it, world history, straight to geography and Spanish.
So the next meal I'm going to make is sausage and peppers. I'm going to do a voiceover for the rest because it was such a busy month. I didn't really have time to talk over all my meals. So right here I have 2 frozen packages of frozen sausage, and then I have the Prego chunky tomato, onion, and garlic. It's one of my favorite jarred pasta sauce. It's really good. If you can get it on sale, it's really worth it. I try to get it when it's 99 cents and they're doing my digital coupons. Here I am just cutting up 2 white onions. I prefer white onions. They're a little milder than yellow onions, but with sausage and peppers, you can use any onion that you like. I wish I had some bell peppers. It definitely would have made the meal a little bit tastier. I just didn't have them, but you can add anything. You could add zucchini if you wanted to. I think sausage goes with a lot of good veggies. You could really do anything, or squash, anything you really wanted to, but today I just had sausage and peppers, and I am dumping everything in the crock pot to cook for a couple hours. You could serve this over Italian bread, rolls, pasta, anything you want. This is such a versatile, easy meal, and I feel like it is absolutely perfect for the fall time. Now, even if this is frozen, it really doesn't make a difference. It will cook. I do this on low for 8 hours or on high for 4, and it cooks perfect every time. This is great for a Sunday meal, football, whatever, especially with football season. This is a really great meal to eat. This time I cooked it on high for 4 hours, but you can cook it at any temperature you want, and it turns out perfect each time. So here it is, served over penne pasta with extra onion in my bowl and a little Parmesan on top. Is amazing. So this one is one of my family's favorites. So I'm starting with Prego, not Prego, and gemellini pasta, I believe that's how you pronounce it, and just some ground beef. I call this meal a beef and mac. It is so simple and so inexpensive and can stretch, and it is a very big meal, so it stretches far. So I have plain salt, onion powder, garlic and pepper, garlic powder, and black pepper. None of these have salt in them. I always check the back to make sure there's not a lot of salt, or there isn't already salt added into my spices, so I don't add too much salt. So I'm just going to brown my ground beef. This meal is so simple. It's kind of like a homemade version of like a hamburger helper. This is a great meal if you have a big family and you need to stretch it. You could always double it, whatever you need to do, and this is definitely a family favorite. So I'm just cooking my pasta in the background. I usually like to use elbow mac because it seems like it just stretches the meal a little further, but I just had some penne and I am just seasoning up my ground beef. I like to do it in the beginning and in the middle when I have it almost completely cooked. I do add quite a bit of garlic because that's what my husband likes, but you definitely could add fresh garlic. You could add kidney beans to this and make it more of a goulash. You can do anything to this. You could add tomatoes, you could add stewed tomatoes, you could add onion, anything, but this is the simplest, most basic recipe. I definitely can build off this. I have in the past, and you certainly can. But I am just browning up my ground beef, excuse me. I'm going to drain it and I will go from there. So here I am adding my pasta sauce. I love this pasta sauce. I never feel like I need to add any extra ingredients. I feel like it's really delicious and I like to get this when it's on sale. So what you have here now is just your basic bolognese sauce. Now I let this simmer for at least 30 minutes. If you can let it simmer longer, even all day, it will taste so much better. But give it at least 30 minutes to kind of marry and get really beautiful in tasting. I like to try to let it cook a little longer than that, but at least 30 minutes. And I just let my pasta sit in the sink and then I mix it all together. To stretch this even further, I made garlic bread. I just got the store-bought garlic bread. It's so easy and it makes the meal stretch a little longer, and that way we had leftovers for the next day. Here I am just mixing it all together, and this is how I serve it. It's so simple and easy, but like I said, you can add anything to make this meal delicious, and I just like to top it with a little Parmesan cheese. It is so good. You could do mozzarella, cheddar, anything you want. My husband doesn't really like cheese, so I never add it to the dishes, but I add it to my own dish. And here it is, all stirred in together. Doesn't that look delicious? It is such a good, hot, perfect meal for fall. Okay, you guys, this is my favorite semi-homemade meal. So I am just seasoning this with a little bit of garlic pepper and then a little bit of the Montreal chicken seasoning. You can season your chicken with anything. Now this is a homemade, semi-homemade chicken pot pie. This meal someone made when my mom passed away, and I have been making it ever since. They gave me the recipe and it is fabulous. So I'm gonna saute the chicken just to give it a little more flavor for my pot pie. But if you wanted to, you could use a rotisserie leftover, and you could even boil the chicken if you were really in a time crunch and just save that broth for this meal or for a future meal. But I like to saute it because I feel like it just gives it a little extra something. So I'm just sauteing about 2 small breasts. It was only my husband and I eating this pot pie this time, and this was plenty for us. And then I took 2 cans of cream of chicken. You definitely need 2 cans, and then a packet of chicken gravy. And I have frozen peas, carrots, and a little bit of shredded hash brown. When I tell you this is so simple, you could add any frozen vegetable you want. You could do lima beans, string beans, corn. I've done it all. You could even use canned vegetables. I've also done that in the past. I just had frozen veggies that I wanted to use up, but you could even do fresh vegetables. Just make sure you cook them ahead of time. So here I am sauteing my chicken and getting it all ready. I like to add that extra packet of gravy just to give it some extra flavor. You don't have to, because it might be a little too much salt for some people, but I like to. And that cream of chicken, you could use cream of celery, mushroom. I just don't really love the cream of celery, so we use 2 cans of cream of chicken, and it just tastes so delicious. You would never know it wasn't a homemade broth or homemade gravy, I'm sorry. So the next steps are so easy. I just break up my vegetables and put them in a bowl. I add the chicken to that, the 2 cans of cream of chicken, the chicken gravy. If you feel like it is a little too thick, you definitely could add a little milk if you need to. And then I just stir it all together. I get a pre-made pie crust because I just couldn't be bothered to make a pie crust because they are very time consuming. And if you don't do it just right, it can mess it up. So I just buy the ones that are from Aldi's that are $1, like 17, and they just make my life so easy. And I either freeze them or keep them in the refrigerator, and I just like to have them in my house at all times. And I just stir this all together and I put it in the pie crust, and I cook this at 350 for about an hour to an hour and 10 minutes. Now I would put a pan underneath because it will leak out if the juices start to leak out the top. So I always put something to protect my oven underneath. I do an egg wash so it gets nice and brown, and like I said, I cook it at 350 for about an hour to an hour and 10 minutes, and it always turns out absolutely perfect. I just want to tell you, sometimes these pie crusts can be a little finicky if you don't pull them out of the refrigerator to make them soft. But I don't care. You know what? The more rustic, the better, in my opinion. So don't get discouraged if it rips on you. I've had them rip in three pieces, and I have just stuck them back together because once it comes out of the oven, it's all going the same place. And my husband doesn't care. I know some people get very upset. My grandmother sometimes does. But you know what? It looked pretty good to me. That's all I have to say. It really did. And then I just slit the top to let a little bit of like ventilation through. And I didn't even get a shot of it before it came out of the oven or while it just came out of the oven because that's how fast it goes. It's so delicious. Okay, last but not least is my daughter's absolute favorite, and it is shake and bake pork chops. This is so simple and easy, and these pork chops were very inexpensive. They were pretty thick. I usually like to get the really thin ones, so they were about an inch thick maybe, or a quarter of an inch, but these were really, really good. So I like to pat them really good. I like to pat them dry really well so everything kind of sticks, and I just flip them with my tongs, and I like to do the same to both sides. And then I'm going to season them really, really well. Pork is pretty good, but I think you need to season it because it can kind of be bland. So what I do is this bourbon sugar or brown sugar bourbon sauce. I use the Montreal chicken, sorry, not sauce, seasoning, and garlic and black pepper. I season both sides really, really well before I shake and bake them. And these were thick, so they used quite a bit of seasoning on these. And after that, I just like to put them in the shake and bake and get them all coated. I cook these at 425 for 25 minutes. Usually the thinner ones I do 15, but these were quite thick. And I always check the internal temperature with my electric thermometer just to make sure. And I believe it's 160 for pork. These cooked up beautifully. I cooked quite a few because I had family over, and these were a big hit. I served them with a side of corn and pre-made mashed potatoes because I just couldn't be bothered this day, and this meal was perfect and a great way to end our week. So thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.